Hey everyone, David here. So, I think I should get into the habit of making bets. I should really go with my gut instinct and make bets on certain things because damn, I am good. Lately I've been on a roll predicting certain things on TV shows or movies or just things that are going to be coming about in general life. But this latest episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. definitely demonstrated that I should probably go with my gut and maybe bet certain things here and there because in this week's episode called Among Us Hide, we got some big revelations, and it was a really hefty episode with a lot of things happening here and there. Which is why I'm actually going to go ahead and breeze over a couple of things that I'll briefly mention right now, like Fitz having some hesitation as to whether or not maybe he should look for Will after getting that talking to from Hunter, where he's kind of, you can tell from his face, he's like, should I be doing this? I mean, that metaphor that Hunter used was just perfect to demonstrate what exactly Fitz is doing in this situation, and maybe he should rethink certain things. Because, like I said, I want my bro Fitz to get out of the friend zone or just get out completely. Because, you know, if you keep yourself in that position, you're just gonna be miserable. All right, trust me, I know this firsthand. So we got that. We also got some stuff with Ward and this new player whose name, I'm sorry, escapes me, both the actor and the character. But he's somehow tied in with Hydra. In fact, Ward even references to him as being the guy that everybody used to be scared of before Ward became head of this do-it-yourself type of Hydra. So he gets brought into the picture after Von Strucker goes to him for help, and we'll see how this plays out later on. But besides those things, there's only 3 key storylines that we tackled this week that I felt were very essential to the structure of this episode. The first one was Coulson trying to get a little closer to the ACTU by tagging along with Rosalind to the facility and to this staged break-in that she planned out in order to kind of create a diversion, but Coulson saw right through that, and so she finally takes him to the facility in hopes that maybe they can work together. But here is where I felt like what was one of my favorite parts about the episode was that they used this as a way to kind of shed some light on Rosalind and what her character is all about, and to kind of give her a little bit more depth, a little bit more humanization, no pun intended. But I like this scene because, like I said, it made Rosalind feel more than just somebody who's like, we need results. We need to present results because we're just this corporation who are simply just made to be an obstacle for Coulson and his S.H.I.E.L.D. to actually go after Inhumans. No, there's a reason for why Rosalind is doing this entire thing. Not just to show results to the White House. There's a personal connection with trying to help other people. So she's not just a cookie cutter head of this other organization that Coulson needs to butt heads with. And once again, I'm shipping these two. Because the back and forth between the two of them is just so excellent, so well written, and so well performed by both actors that I would definitely not mind seeing the two of these characters get together at some point. I'm sorry, May. I know that May and Coulson kind of had a minor, tiny bit thing here, but after this episode, trust me, May's gonna have a lot on her plate, a lot on her hands to keep her busy. So Coulson, now with the confirmation that Rosalind's not married, at least not anymore, unfortunately. Hey, man. Just get in the game there. Then we had Daisy, Mac, and Hunter trying to figure out who is Lash exactly. They're trying to figure out and connect the dots to figure out what exactly is ACTU hiding, because they can kind of see through the visage that Rosalind is trying to portray, and they're like, no, something's up. If we need to work with these people, we need to know every single little thing about them. And so one of the things that they're suspicious of is that Lash actually works for the ACTU, and would kind of make sense for why they're trying to go after Inhumans, and when Humans don't cooperate, they send out this big monster. And at one point they even suspect that guy Banks, the British white guy, always talks like this. Oh, was he British? No, he wasn't British. But because of the way he talked and the way he looked, I automatically assumed that he was British. But they find him, and they manage to find out that he is not in fact Lash or any kind of Inhuman. And this, in my opinion, was probably the weakest little plot line amongst this episode for a couple of reasons. One, there was no huge development with either the characters or their investigation. I mean, sure, Daisy sees Rosalind and Coulson within the facility, and she kind of gets a little upset because she sees how they're practically harvesting Inhumans. And obviously it's one of those cases where Daisy, or at least the character that we're focusing on, sees one thing, but we as viewers know that it's another, and we're like, oh my god, they're not going to know, they're going to cut off the feed, and then in the next scene they're going to show that the person they thought was wasn't being affected by this, and they trusted or whatever. It turns out that they were good. You know, that familiar territory, and that's kind of where they went when right after she withdrew the dwarf little drone thing. Coulson then shows off how he doesn't like how the people are being contained like that. So, like I said, there was no monumentous development with that plot line, and I wasn't expecting anything too grand, but I was just hoping for something a little bit better. Instead, it kind of took away. And what it took away in is that, for some strange reason, Hunter was a little annoying in this episode. I mean, he was being a likable character not only throughout season 2, but up until this point in season 3. So that now that he got benched, like he puts it, benched off the mission because of his reckless behavior at the end of not last week's episode, because that was a bottle episode with Simmons, but the one before that, where he decides to put Andrew's life at risk for a shot to take Ward down. And everybody's just looking at him like, oh my god, you were so reckless and stupid for doing that. He then sees himself as just somebody who doesn't know what to do. And so he tries to help out. He tries to help with Fitz, and Fitz says, no, go away. And so he tries to tag along with Daisy and Mac, and they give him a chance. Only here, he was kind of like that kid that you know means well, but for some reason, every time you tell him not to touch things, he has to keep touching things, and most of the time it's a kid. It's a boy. We boys, we're often like that. You know, we're stubborn. Not to say girls wouldn't do that either, but most of the time it's gonna be a boy. Hunter's a boy. He's going to touch things when he's told not to, and so he does that a number of times in this episode. And I wouldn't say he's annoying, like he got on my nerves, but he was just not like this. He just wasn't the same type of character as he was in these previous episodes for season 3. He was much more collected and focused, whereas here he was reckless. And I understand that his decision at the end was also pretty sloppy and messy, but it made for a good character beat. Instead, here he just kept that thing going. I was hoping he would maybe focus back on that decision he made and had kind of like some inner demon thing type thing going for him, but instead he's doing things that he's not supposed to be doing, no matter how clever they may have become at the end, where he says, oh, let's just draw his blood, and that way we'll be able to tell, and they just put him back. And sure, this made it for an easier conclusion that Banks was not an inhuman, but that was a very huge risk that Hunter was already taking after taking the massive one that he did a couple of episodes ago. But on the bright side, in exchange for an annoying Hunter, we got a much more loosened up Mac. But fortunately, I got my fill of monumentous development when it came to our third plotline, which is Bobby and May going after Ward personally. Now that Hunter's off the picture, May takes it upon herself to recruit Bobby, because she can tell that she's ready after that test, which caught me off guard. Really caught me off guard. I'm like, really? May, you're much more collected than this. I mean, you didn't even... Hunter was the one who actually did the act of putting Andrew at risk, and all you did was gave him the stink eye. Now you're going to go and beat up Bobby? That was so out of character. So I was very, very pleasantly surprised to know that she was just testing her. I was like, okay, thank you, because that would have been so out of character for her. So she recruits Bobby, goes after Ward by following Strucker, which is the same reason for why Ward now wants him dead. Going to this penthouse where they have this little fight, and it was a neat plotline that I felt could have made for its own episode, but I understood why they were just trying to stream everything together, and that's not the point. The point is, though, is that they find Von Strucker beaten half to death, and chances are he's not going to make it past this episode. But right before he dies, he reveals something that I knew and I should have betted money on. And once he said it, oh my god. He reveals that Andrew Garner is in fact Lash, which I called on. You guys watched my review from a couple episodes back, because last week's didn't count because that was the Simmons-centric episode. I specifically pointed out that we didn't see the body. We saw Von Strucker run out of there quickly, like he saw something very, very scary in there, and then the place blew up. And then we open up this episode with Gardner being alive without almost a scratch. I mean, the place blew up, and yet he doesn't have any burn marks. He doesn't look heavily injured. He's able to talk. He's sentient about what's going on. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. And then we get the reveal by Von Strucker about what really went down in that little mini mart. So now everything falls into place. We now know why Skye was spared amongst the Inhumans that Lash was hunting down. We know why he was so curious to know where Lincoln was. And we now know why exactly he divorced May in the first place. Remember in that episode he's like, it was me, it wasn't you, that type of thing. Now we know why. And so this will make for some very interesting drama within the team, now knowing that somebody within their headquarters, somebody they trusted, turned out to be this killer monster that's out there. And I'm definitely excited. I'm definitely excited to see how this plays out. It was a reveal that it's one of those good reveals that even if you called it like I did, it still has this surprising element to it that you're like, oh my god, I knew it. But it's just so exhilarating to actually watch, seeing Andrew transform into a beast and then transform back. And it's definitely cool to now use Blair Underwood's character much more importantly. And this is the reason why he wouldn't greenlight any of those Inhumans. He wouldn't say, oh yeah, they go out the field. He would keep them there. There's a reason for why he doesn't want these people out there. And hopefully, as the season progresses, we'll find out why. So you could argue, and I would understand if you thought that maybe this episode was just a little bit too cluttered, a little too busy, and Hunter resorting to being just a little naggy, a little annoying, wanting to tag along with everybody was just a little out of place considering how he was in not only season 2 but also this first few episodes of season 3. But regardless, the material that we did see in this episode was handled really well, especially the back and forth between Coulson and Rosin was, again, a delight to see. And I like the fact that they developed her character a little bit more and she wasn't just this head of an organization just looking out to beat the competition. But of course, the big thing that everyone's going to be talking about is that big Lash reveal at the very end that is definitely a capper to end an episode like this on. And just the look on May's face made the entire episode worth it. I'm not saying it was bad, but it was just the perfect way to end such an episode. So I'm going to give Among Us High a solid 8 out of 10. I thought it was a good episode. Some things I could have done without. I think they could have been saved for something else. And I know S.H.I.E.L.D. has suffered with problems like that in the past, but that big reveal and what it can lead to is definitely something that kept the episode with that fast-paced momentum that S.H.I.E.L.D. has now adapted since season 2. And the preview that I did manage to see for the next episode, if they're gonna go through with some kind of confrontation between May and Garner in the next one, I'm definitely looking forward to it. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you guys thought of this week's episode of S.H.I.E.L.D. and I'll see you guys next time.